Now, Wall Street, of course, is one of the more prolific donors to both the Democratic and Republican parties. Now, their support is rather generous, and with any kind of generous support, tends to come with a price, as we're going to find out thanks to The Intercept. Now, in an article written by Li Fong and Zi Jelani, they break down exactly what these donors wanted from the Democratic Party in return to their support. Now, these donors include unions, Wall Street firms, and corporations such as GE. Now, this is important because it also ties into the most recent race between Karen Handel and Jon Ossoff, which was the most expensive race in history, with around $50 to $60 million raised on both sides. Now, the majority of that, of course, went to the Democrat, Jon Ossoff. Again, that's important because where do they raise this money? Well, they raise it from giant donors. So they're not raising it from regular people. Not most of it anyway. A lot of the big dollar contributions, unfortunately, come from PACs, super PACs, and giant multinational corporations and millionaire donors. Now, they start the article by pointing out that Wall Street donors have used their financial relationship with the Democratic Party to complain about Elizabeth Warren, about her influence over the direction of the party. Well, that's very interesting. And that at one point, the Democratic lawmaker in charge of raising money for House Democrats tried to reassure these same donors that by pointing to a news story claiming that Elizabeth Warren doesn't speak for the party. Well, that's actually true. She does not speak for the party. The party actually hates her, despite her bending down to kiss the ring of Hillary Clinton. That's something, of course, that a lot of progressives they haven't forgotten that, and they're actually still very, very angry to that about that as well. Now, the document, a fundraising summary compiled by the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, provides a window into the relationship between Democrats and major interest group donors. Now, the party held meetings with donors such as Goldman Sachs and General Electric and had carefully compiled their concerns. Now, even when, of course, these companies whined about progressive ideas. Now, look, if you thought the whining and crying by the rich was bad that we've seen during the election, well, imagine what they say behind closed doors. Well, we actually get a little bit of a peek into that. Now, the notes were compiled on behalf of Representative Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico. Now, he is the chair of the DCCC. Now, providing a summary of his fundraising meetings with various corporate and union donors. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can read the report. We'll have the link in the description, of course. But the 9-page document was found in a cache of files published last week by Guccifer 2.0, the hacker that has been accused of working with the Russian government. I don't know about any of that, but I do find these notes very, very interesting. Now, to give you a taste of what they said, we go to Goldman Sachs lobbyists Michael Pace and Joyce Brayboy. Now, they complained about Lujan that the party, the Democratic Party's rhetoric is, quote, problematic. Oh, problematic. What kind of rhetoric? Well, it's the rhetoric, of course, against Goldman Sachs, against some of the banks. Oh, the banks, we don't like it when you make fun of the banks. We don't like it when you call our profit model or our business model greed, as what Bernie Sanders had been doing. Well, we don't like it when you agree with that. We don't like it when you go after the banks. In fact, they said that also that they don't like Warren's messaging. So this is basically aiming their ire at Elizabeth Warren, interestingly enough. Now, how dare she go after the banks? She may have been soft on the Democrats, but she has not been soft on the banks. Let's be fair. And the banks are like, well, we don't like her. She's a meanie. We don't like her at all. Well, hey, the American people don't like the banks. And yet, here you are, having significant access to our elected officials. That doesn't seem right. Of course, you might wonder why they have such access. And if you do, well, you only got to follow the money. The lobbyist access was likely influenced by significant contributions to the DCCC. In the 2014 election cycle, the Goldman Sachs PAC gave the DCCC $30,000, and in 2016, it gave $20,000. Now, that might not seem like a lot on the stage of national politics, but remember, our politicians are fairly cheap. So if you want to buy one, all you need is $20,000. So there are some politicians that will go for $500. Yeah, go ahead. Give me $500. I'll lobby whatever you want. Sad. Now, similar concerns were brought to the DCCC by lobbyists for Security, Industry, and Financial Markets Association. That's a trade group that represents Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and other large financial companies. SIMFA lobbyists were upset around messaging demonizing Wall Street. So, wait. They're upset when we call out Wall Street for crashing the economy in 2008. It wasn't us. We didn't do it. We didn't make risky bets. We didn't play casino with the stock market. Certainly, home buyers didn't. The ones that were sold shitty subprime mortgages that were packaged up and then sold to, or bet against on the market. Not our fault. We didn't do that. You did it. Pointing that out. No, that's somehow demonizing Wall Street. They have such thin skin that they turned against President Obama. Again, somebody who they funded millions and millions of dollars in 2008. They were some of their top funders for the Obama campaign. Turned against him when he said, oh, these bankers, they're fat cats. How thin-skinned are you? Seriously. Come on. Oh. Now, what about pointing out how they're too big to fail? Right? Well, if they're too big to fail, they're too big to exist. Again, they're so thin-skinned, they're like, oh my God, how dare you? How dare you want to break us up? We don't want to be broken up. Oh, stop it, or we're not going to give you any more money. That's exactly what they threatened. And they also threatened, withholding money if Hillary Clinton, and this isn't a general election, Hillary Clinton chose Elizabeth Warren as her running mate. We're not going to give you money. We're not going to support you at all. You better not dare pick Elizabeth Warren. We will not be your friends. We will not give you money. Again, super, super thin-skinned. How dare you let this Democratic radical demonize us? You know, they're supposed to fall in line. I mean, yeah, you could play these rhetorical games, but at the end of the day, you're supposed to fall in line so we can give you money, so you can do our bidding. Oh, you got this Democrat over there, Elizabeth Warren. You got this independent over here, Bernie Sanders, that are not falling in line. Well, we're just not going to give you money. Come on. So, of course, thanks to this criticism, right, here comes Nancy Pelosi saying, Warren, oh, Elizabeth Warren, people like her, they actually don't speak for the party. Well, that's fairly clear. Here's the minority leader, House Minority Leader, saying, yeah, she doesn't actually speak for the party. We're still open for business. You can still give us all the money you want. Don't worry about them. Yeah, they're outspoken, whatever. They're useful to us. So we're not going to shut them up. Amazing, right? Now, in response to that, the financial industry lobbyists actually saw that as an encouraging sign, but warned that the attacks in the financial sector were creating, quote, a larger problem when people don't trust the banks and financial institutions. It's not the rhetoric that is causing that distrust. You earn that shit. The rhetoric is just somebody in office actually reflecting what the people have been saying all along, and that the banks have been screwing us. They've been screwing us. They've been screwing the economy. They've been crashing. Yeah, I mean, they crashed the fucking economy. They all had their golden parachutes. Wall Street is incredibly unpopular thanks to Wall Street. It's not anybody else's fault. You call out Wall Street, you're actually saying the truth. You're not actually making things up. You're not slandering people. You're not slandering Jamie Dimon. No, what you're doing is that you're saying, hey, man, these business practices, these are super shady, and these are putting the economy at large in peril. Maybe we should do something about it. But again, these people, they can't see past their own selves. I mean, they've got more hubris than Hillary Clinton. And they think, no, not our fault. No, we do everything perfectly. How dare you try to blame us? How dare you try to demonize us whatsoever? No, it's your fault. It's not us. You better shut that Elizabeth Warren up. Come on. way more problems than rhetoric. That trust is deeply deserved, but it hurts her feelings. What's the matter? Did the mean lady hurt your fifis? Sad snowflake. Now, continuing on. The Financial Services Trade Group also raised concern with the Department of Labor's fiduciary rule. So this is actual legislation. Now, this fiduciary rule would prevent financial advisors from making retirement advice based on kickbacks from retirement funds. Now, wait a minute. That's essentially saying that, hey, if you have a financial advisor, that advisor is actually supposed to help you make sound financial decisions. That's their job. Well, now that fiduciary rule, that's what that fiduciary rule says. Well, Wall Street says, well, we don't want that. What we want to do is we just want to make the decisions that will best impact us. Hey, if our customer ends up going broke because of our advice, sad day for you. We still made a buck. We don't care about you. How dare you try to impose a rule that makes us have to care about you? We don't want to, because that's not good for our bottom line. Now, unfortunately, a vote earlier this year, proposed by House Republicans and supported by SIMFA, came down on party lines with, of course, all Democrats opposing the effort and all Republicans voting for it. And look, I guess credit to the Democrats on that one, because that's a significant thing. That even with all that money, the Democrats actually still did the right thing. So I guess you got to give some credit. Now, the article notes that SIFMA, I'm saying that wrong the whole time, was not quite ready to give money to the DCCC, in large part due to that messaging, but offered to do, quote, literacy events with House Democrats. Literacy events. Something tells me it doesn't have anything to do with a book. I think it has to do with, hey, read what's on these dollar bills. Can you read that? Those could be yours if you do our bidding. Literacy event. Now, campaign disclosure showed that SIFMA's Political Action Committee donated to the committee supporting House Republicans this year, but not the DCCC. In the 2014 election cycle, they gave $30,000 to the DCCC. Of course, that's related to how they voted on these rules. So again, I do have to give some credit to the Democrats there for saying, you know what, we still do care a little bit about our constituents. So you gave us money before. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't enough to bribe us correctly. So we're going to go against your rule. We're actually going to try to save the fiduciary rule because we actually think it's good policy. Wow, amazing, right? It's amazing how I actually got to give the Democrats a little bit of credit there. But of course, they decided after that, well, we're not going to give money to you. We're going to give our money to Republicans. All right, see ya. Great. We don't want your stinking money. Go ahead and put it into the Republicans. So they can lose against a progressive if the Democrats actually try to run one. Now, of the other industries that donated, you have General Electric. Now, they're actually far more supportive than the banks. They actually give a lot more money. They offered tips and tactics, campaign technology, and strategy around electing more Southern and pro-business Democrats. Here we go again. So look, you want to get more pro-business Democrats. They're not going to win. Okay, they're not going to win in places like the South, because what you have then is basically you have a Republican that's okay with gay people. Well, that's not going to work well in the South, especially if you have people that are in the Bible Belt that are very religious and very evangelical. So essentially you're throwing money and you're advising the Democrats to do these to put out these candidates that are basically going to lose to Republicans because they are running Republican light, except on social issues that don't fly well in the South. Now, the notes make clear that GE's donations to the party would be influenced by lawmakers' votes. And that's what it comes down to. GE, the document notes, gave $400,000 to the House Dems last cycle, but they're facing headwinds this cycle. Listed under the headwinds are an array of GE policy concerns, including the renewal of the Export-Import Bank, something Bernie Sanders was against, the repeal of the Affordable Care Act's medical device tax, which a lot of Democrats were mostly against, and changes regarding the Medicare reimbursement formula. The meeting notably was conducted not only with GE's lobbyists, but also with Betsy Tower, the manager in charge of the company's Political Action Committee. GE's PAC gave the DCCC $30,000 in 2014 and only $20,000 this cycle. But it's not just corporations. There are actually some unions there. Now, one of the unions actually works against progressive priorities, and this was the Laborers International Union of North America. Now, this union was basically for construction workers. Now, they warned that they were with the Republicans in supporting a total repeal of Obamacare, the ACA, gone, and that they were concerned about Democratic hostility towards the Keystone XL pipeline. That union gave $30,000 to the DCCC in 2014 and $15,000 in this election cycle. Now, again, that's just one union. Other unions, of course, were more friendly and supportive of a broad progressive agenda, as a lot of unions are. But that's not really the point. Point being, money is dominating our system. And look, friendly progressive lobbying groups are sadly outnumbered by corporations, billionaires, and their PACs that give huge sums of money towards their political campaigns. Now, including Democrat campaigns. Now, if you look at the DCCC's refusal to back James Thompson in Kansas, or giving token support too late to Rob Quist, while showering Ossoff's campaign with over $50 million to get roughly the same results as both Kansas and Montana, who are actually far more difficult districts for a progressive or a Democrat to win in, you get the notion that a lot of these donors are preventing the Democratic Party from supporting progressive policies, from moving to the left to appeal to more populist strains. And I think for a lot of these Democrats, it's not that they despise progressive ideas, although I know certainly some do, but they defend instead their money interests, because I think they still labor under the notion that more money equals wins. And if they don't get that money, well, they're going to lose. If they run a progressive candidate, they're going to lose. That's what they actually think. And they listen to these consultants that are clearly overpaid and give terrible advice. And you start to see why the Democratic Party continues to lose over and over and over again, and needs major structural reform if it's ever going to win another election. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.